Welcome. My name is Bob, and you're watching Extra Innings with Bob. And I'd like to start by telling you how this thing came about. It's going to be a series of just chats that you and I will have together, and talking about my life, my experiences as it relates to baseball. Baseball was a big part of my life. I'm not saying I was a fantastic fan, but I did watch it in every city I lived in and adopted the team that I lived in, that being Scranton, Pennsylvania, where we had the New York teams and the Philadelphia team. Then when we moved to Pittsburgh, the Pirates, and now the Padres in San Diego. But I want to begin by telling you about a very eventful day in my life. I was about 10 years old, and I was coming home from school, and I turned onto our street and saw an antenna on the roof of our building, our home. And I knew that my father was in negotiation with the appliance dealer who sold televisions, and he bartered groceries from his store for the television set, and it arrived. It was a floor model. It was, my mother had picked out the console, 12 inches, black and white. And it changed my life. It changed everyone's life, really, that when television came along. And one of the programs was on Sunday, I believe, Life Begins at 80. And it was a panel show with 4 or 5 men and women in their 80s, and it was hosted by a moderator who kept the conversation going about current events and life's experiences. And in a sense, that's what this is going to be. Just a chat with me that brings to light things that occurred before cell phones. When it was a different world, being raised in the 50s. So you can imagine these people who were 80 years old were born in the late 1860s, early 1870s, before radio, before electricity. And their insight was valuable, according to the network executives who put them on the air. The biggest event in baseball probably was the 1950s World Series that had the New York Yankees playing the Philadelphia Phillies. My best friend Puggy was a big Philadelphia Phillies fan, and I just want to tell you who some of those players were. Richie Ashburn on the Phillies, Del Ennis in right field, Granny Hamner, shortstop, was Puggy's favorite player. Andy Semenick, Stan Lepata. The pitchers were Jim Constanti, Robin Roberts, and Curt Simmons, who actually didn't play in the World Series. He was called into the Army. The Yankees had Phil Rizzuto, Yogi Berra, Joe DiMaggio, and of course Jerry Coleman, who became an announcer for the Padres. Great pitchers, Vic Raschi, Allie Reynolds, Whitey Ford. Now my father was a fan. Believe it or not, he was an immigrant who was born in Italy, came in about 1919 after World War I. He was a Yankee fan, and he used to tell me about some of the Italians who would take the train to Yankee Stadium, his friends, and would sit in the outfield bleachers and wave the Italian flag back and forth and sing, because many of the Yankees were Italians. And that meant a lot to my father. My brother Don, who was 16 years older than I was, played softball and loved baseball. And at the end of his career, he actually sold tickets for the Padres. And when they would close the ticket window, he would go out to the outfield, sit by himself, nobody around him, and smoke and watch the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. My brother Jim and I would listen to the radio on summer nights with the windows open, a little breeze, in the dark, with the only light coming from the radio dial, and listen to the Dodgers and the Giants. My sister actually happened to be standing next to me. She was 14 years older than I was when Bobby Thompson hit his home run. We were listening to the radio in the shot heard round the world when the Giants beat the Dodgers to go to the World Series.